January 12, 1888, Thursday morning across the Dakota and Nebraska territories. The day begins warm, unseasonably warm, temperatures in the 30s, almost 40 degrees in some places. After weeks of bitter cold, it feels like relief, like winter might be breaking early. Children walk to school without heavy coats. Some wear light jackets, cotton dresses. The ground is frozen, but the air is mild. Farmers work outside in shirt sleeves, repairing fences, hauling water. The sun is out. The sky is hazy but calm. In one room, schoolhouses scattered across the plains. Teachers open windows to let in fresh air. Students sit at wooden desks, working on slates, reading from McGuffey readers. The morning is so pleasant that some teachers let the children play outside during recess. No one notices the wind shifting. Around midday, the temperature begins to drop, not gradually, rapidly, 10 degrees in an hour, then 20. The mild air is being pushed out by something from the north, moving fast. The sky changes. The haze thickens, turns gray, then darker. The wind picks up. Teachers call the children back inside. They close the windows. Some glance outside and see the light fading, though it's barely past noon. Then the temperature falls off a cliff, from 35 degrees to 0 in less than 3 hours. The wind arrives with it, screaming down from Canada, hitting the plains with nothing to slow it. No forests, no mountains, just open land. And then the snow comes. Not falling, flying, horizontal sheets of it driven by wind that would later be estimated at 50 miles per hour. Visibility drops to nothing. White, complete white. The schoolhouses disappear into it. Inside, the children press against the windows, trying to see. But there's nothing to see. Just wind and snow and cold pouring down from the north. The temperature by mid-afternoon will hit 20 below zero. In 1888, the Dakota and Nebraska territories were still frontier. Towns were small and far apart. Farms and homesteads spread across open prairie in every direction. Many families had arrived within the last decade, claiming land under the Homestead Act. The schoolhouses were small frame buildings, often miles from the nearest town. One teacher, sometimes two, taught children of all ages, 6-year-olds sitting next to teenagers. Heat came from a coal or wood stove in the center of the room. Fuel was whatever the community could provide. There was no telephone system connecting rural areas. No weather forecasts beyond what the nearest railroad station might telegraph to a town. No warning system. Farmers and teachers watched the sky and made their own judgments. Most children walked to school. A mile, 2 miles, some as far as 3. In good weather it was nothing. In a blizzard those distances became vast. The schoolhouses were isolated. The teacher was in charge. If something happened, illness, injury, storm, the teacher decided what to do. Send the children home, keep them inside, wait it out. There was no one to call for guidance. This was the system operating on January 12, 1888. When the temperature dropped 50 degrees in a matter of hours, and the blizzard hit without warning. Minnie Freeman was 19 years old. She taught at a schoolhouse near Ord, Nebraska, in a settlement called Myra Valley. 13 students that day, ages 6 to 15. When the blizzard hit, the schoolhouse began to shake. The wind was so strong it rattled the walls. Minnie kept the children at their desks, trying to keep them calm. She fed more coal into the stove. Then the building started to come apart. The roof lifted, not off but up and down, boards creaking, nails pulling. The wind was prying at it. Snow began blowing in through gaps in the walls. The stove smoked. The temperature inside the room dropped fast. Minnie made a decision. They couldn't stay. The building wasn't going to hold. She had the children line up. The older ones in front, the younger ones behind. She took a ball of twine from her desk and had them hold onto it, one after another, so no one would get separated. Then she tied one end around her own waist. She opened the door. The wind hit them like a physical force. The cold was instant, shocking. The children stumbled. Minnie pulled them forward out into the blizzard. Visibility was nothing. She couldn't see the children behind her. She couldn't see her own feet. She knew there was a house, a homestead somewhere to the south. Maybe half a mile. She had visited it before. But in the whiteout she couldn't see landmarks. No fence lines, no trees. Just wind and snow and cold that burned exposed skin within seconds. She walked into the wind, pulling the children with her. They held the twine. Some of the younger ones cried. The older boys tried to shield the smaller children with their bodies. Minnie kept moving. Later she couldn't say how long they walked. It might have been an hour. It felt longer. Her hands went numb. The children's faces were raw. One of the boys fell and she had to pull him up. Then through the snow, a dark shape. The homestead. She found the door, pounded on it, and a farmer opened it and pulled them inside. All 13 children survived. Minnie Freeman would later be called a hero. But in the moment, in the house with the children shivering by the fire, she just sat and didn't speak for a long time. The blizzard struck in the early afternoon, when children were still at school and farmers were out working. The temperature drop was so fast that people caught outside were suddenly in lethal danger, wearing clothes suited for a mild January day. The wind made it worse. At 50 miles per hour, the wind chill turned 20 below into something closer to 60 below. Exposed skin froze in minutes. Fingers went numb. Vision blurred from the cold and the snow hitting faces like needles. Disorientation was the killer. In whiteout conditions, people couldn't see their hands in front of their faces. Familiar landscapes vanished. A man could be 20 feet from his own barn and walk right past it. Children trying to walk home from school wandered off course into open prairie. Some teachers made the decision to keep students inside. They burned desks, books, anything they could find when the coal ran out. They huddled around stoves, waiting. Those children survived. Other teachers sent the children home, thinking the storm wouldn't last. Some of those children made it, others didn't. A teacher named Etta Shattuck in the Plainfield settlement dismissed her students when the storm hit. She tried to lead them to a nearby house. In the whiteout, she lost her way. 2 children froze to death. Etta survived but lost both her feet to frostbite. A 16-year-old teacher named Lois Royce kept her students inside a schoolhouse that had no fuel left. She burned everything she could, books, desks, the floorboards. She kept the children moving, kept them awake. All survived. In another schoolhouse, children set out for home and became separated. An 8-year-old boy named Ilo Krejci walked in circles until he collapsed. His older sister found him, carried him back toward the school, but they both froze to death within sight of the building. Farmers died trying to reach their barns. Some tied ropes from the house to the barn door, but the wind ripped the ropes from their hands. They wandered into fields and were found days later, frozen solid, sometimes within yards of shelter. The storm lasted into the night. By the time the wind stopped, the temperature was 40 below zero. The sun rose on Friday morning over a landscape transformed. Drifts covered buildings. Roads were gone. And in settlements across the plains, families began searching for the missing. The death toll was never precisely known. Estimates ranged from 200 to 500. Many of the dead were children. Some bodies weren't found until the spring thaw. In the days after the storm, rescue parties went out on horseback, checking schoolhouses, searching fields. They found children who had made it partway home before freezing. They found teachers who had died trying to lead students to safety. They found entire families who had been caught outside. Some children survived through chance. A boy in Dakota Territory walked for hours, disoriented, until he stumbled into a haystack. He burrowed inside and stayed there through the night. The hay insulated him. He was found the next morning, frostbitten but alive. A girl in Nebraska fell into a snowdrift and her siblings piled on top of her, using their bodies to shield her from the wind. They survived. Others, just as brave, didn't. The storm became known as the Schoolhouse Blizzard, or the Children's Blizzard, because so many of the victims were students. It hit during school hours, on a day warm enough that no one was prepared. It happened so fast that even experienced settlers were caught off guard. Afterwards, communities changed how they operated. Rope systems were installed between houses and barns. Schools kept extra fuel on hand. Teachers were told to keep students inside during storms, no matter what. Minnie Freeman received letters from across the country. Songs were written about her. She became famous for saving her students, but she rarely spoke about it publicly. When asked, she said she just did what needed to be done. The storm was a reminder that the plains were not fully settled, that the land could still turn lethal without warning. That survival often came down to small decisions, whether to stay or go, whether to hold on or let go. On January 13th, 1888, the sun rose over a frozen prairie. Smoke rose from chimneys. People dug out their doors and began the work of accounting for the missing. The children who survived would carry the memory for the rest of their lives. The cold, the wind, the white, the feeling of holding onto a rope or a hand, walking blind into the storm. And the silence after, when it finally stopped.